Twitter is great for discovering what is going on right now. But the endless stream of tweets makes it really easy to miss relevant updates from people who are important to me. Such as my boyfriend, who decided last minute to go to India. Or my spiritual leader, who lets me see things in a different light. What if the tweets of the people you care about were delivered to your mailbox every day, without you needing to check Twitter all the time? This is why we made Essence. Here's how it works. I log into Essence using my Twitter account. After entering my email address, I can select the people I want to receive updates from, my VIPs. That's it. Once a day, Essence will collect the tweets from my VIPs and send me an email containing their updates. Never miss a tweet you care about. Get your Essence delivered today at essenceapp.com.
And notice how if I change the list of my VIPs, this gets synchronized between different windows. And this could be true on your phone as it's true here with two browser windows. The way it works in Socket.io is through the concept of rooms. All sockets gets put in a single room, and then I'm able to emit events to that specific room that get broadcasted to all the sockets. In this case, the room itself represents the user itself. So that enables very simply to keep different clients in sync without too much work. I've run some little tests on my machine and on Githu. The speed that Socket.io provides is twice as much as Ajax. I really like the semantics. I think it really made for a very quick development. It completely removed the necessity of having two states. Usually when you're working with a backend, you have a state that is kept in the client, and then a state that is kept in the server, and you need to keep that synchronized. But if the speed of the connection between client and server is very fast, you can get away with it. This is true for a reliable connection over Wi-Fi. Not very true if you're using the app from a mobile device, where the connection over 3G can be spotty or the latency tends to be quite bad. And I've run into issues with that that I still need to actually fix myself. But that's what happens when you kind of push it. Another very useful module is request. Very soon when you start playing with Node, you run into the limitation of the HTTP and HTTPS modules. Request makes it really easy to abstract from the complexity of the protocol itself. And it makes it really easy to authenticate to popular social kind of one sign-up social buttons type of functionality via OAuth. And the first time I built the entire thing myself over HTTPS, and then a couple months later, I found out about how request really simplifies the whole process and throw away a lot of code. The other thing when you start playing with JavaScript is you're going to run into what they call the pyramid of DOM. Basically, the callbacks are that needs to happen sequentially create this sort of pyramid, it's kind of it's not very easy to read, and it's kind of hard to understand what's going on, especially if you're coming from a different background like mine. I found that async didn't solve the problem, but really made it easier to control the flow of my application. In this case, you see here the waterfall functionality of async. I'm basically executing 3 functions when the user logs in. The first one being get the user entry from the database. I update the user entry with the last login date. And then I save the user entry in the database. Pretty readable. I become pretty fond of async. it's a big modules. There are a lot of things. The other useful one is the map functionality. If Waterfall provided like a serial way of executing code, Maps provides a way to execute code parallel. It's useful when I'm putting together the essence, the list of tweets from the different users. For each user, I want to gather the tweets, and then once all this operation is finished, I want to put together the email. And async makes it very easy, and the code is pretty readable. _JS, very popular if you've done any JavaScript before. I didn't know it existed. I wrote a bunch of stuff myself, and then it was like, oh, well, they basically did everything that they needed to work on arrays and collection and objects if you use it. And then I got really sick of specifying the full path of my own files. Does anybody know a solution for this? So I couldn't find a better solution. So I wrote a module myself. I basically don't want to care where I put my files. I want to move them around in different folders, and I don't want to update the source code every time I refactor my code. And so this is a module that I wrote. It's on NPM. It basically allows you not to care what folder you put your files in, just like you do with require when you have a module. Then when you build a product, it runs on your machine. It runs on your machine, but you need to put it out in the cloud. So how do you do that? I think Matt said very well that you really don't want to fire up AWS for that. It's going to be a pain. And I use Githu. As I said, I've been very happy with them. This is kind of the console panel that you see when you deploy an app. I found it easy to use and pretty fast. It's also very cheap. Drone in the starting plan is $3 a month, so it's really cheap, and it's based on Giant. I don't know how much you guys know about Giant, but they basically, instead of like running a virtual machine, they have this concept of zones, similar to Solaris. And zones allow for a much higher performance. I ran some tests, and the performance that I was getting out from a Githu drone was about half what I would be getting from this MacBook Air, which is on i7. And it's pretty good, I think. I've been very happy with their support. You're going to need their support because they're a startup and they break things often, which is not great. But every time you talk to them, they are very responsive, especially on the IRC channel that they have. They also provide you with a database. And again, I didn't even know how to like fire up my own database on my own local machine, and they provided that for free for me. It's all included in the plan. And yes, you're gonna every now and then you're gonna run into some issues. This is what happened this morning when I tried to deploy it. It just said we have no free servers, and then went to the IRC channel, and they were working on it, and in a couple of, like in 10 minutes it was fixed. And they have a great support. Last thing I want to tell you about is NoFly. Have you guys tried it? Yeah? Basically, when you deploy something to the cloud, then it becomes really hard to tell what's happening out there. And NoFly provides some insights. They try their best. They still have some things that I quite don't understand. The CPU usage seems to be always 0. And I emailed them about it, and they gave me an explanation that they quite didn't understand. But basically, their explanation was it's always like 0 for some reason. And so I asked them why even put the graph there. But again, they're just starting. I think Node is everything is so recent that they're also trying their best to provide a great solution for monitoring, and I think they do. The heap size especially is very interesting, realizing whether your app is leaking or not. Response time of your pages, very useful as well. And that's it. That concludes my presentation.
Can you provide any tips for people who want to get started with the Joint Cloud or Node.js? I'm a big advocate of their stuff, and I think people need to realize going into it that it's not Linux, and so it can be a little unsettling. Did you have prior background with Linux before you got into Joint's ecosystem?
Yeah, I wrote kernel extension for OS X, but I didn't need that for to plug into Githu. That's the beauty of it. I didn't mess with the Joint Cloud. They abstract all that complexity for me. What you do is basically sign up, install one of their package called Githu that handles the deployment. And literally in a couple of hours, you have your apps running in the cloud.
Excuse me, what's overall your, like, why would you use Node.js over Heroku? You're saying, you know, they sometimes have issues not running.
Yeah, I really felt strongly about Socket.io. I think Socket.io allows for a new category of products to be built on the web. The speed of things and the semantics that they enable you to use makes it for much better user experience and faster prototyping.